Right, today will be the Devops mock interview, day 4. So previously we have conducted 3 classes. So if you have missed it, you can watch in my YouTube channel. Okay, this you can go and check in the playlist. There is a Devops interview. You can find it. So today, let's start the mock interview. So this will be not like day 1 and day 2. It will be little bit tough compared to day 1, day 2, and day 3. So you have a Docker container, okay, and you are running a web server, but now you have a scenario where you need to update the application code inside that container. What is the approach you will do? Like how you will approach for this task?
Uh,
You have a Docker container, right? Let
yes.
me share my screen. Let me show you, then only you will get clarity. Okay, this is the scenario. I have collected 10 scenarios. Okay,
Okay.
I'm not asking directly into a question. Okay, I'm asking how interviewers will confuse you like that. Rather than asking the straight question, I'm just trying to confuse you with this. Okay, you have a Docker container. Inside that container, you having a web server. Web server, what is a web server? It might be Nginx, it might be
Mhm.
Apache. Now you need to update the application code inside it. Nothing but inside the web server, you need to add some configuration files and all. So, what is the approach for this task? Anyone, if you know, you can try.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
we
So,
can
oh,
we can create a container image with the update code and deploying into that uh, deploying deploy to the server.
Super, nice. You are almost correct. Now I will go to scenario 2. So your team is deploying a microservice architecture using a Docker container, right? How
Okay.
would you orchestrate and manage these many containers?
Like mm, stages with the help. We can write the container Docker file like will like the stage like stages, and we can deploy that one. And in that stages, we can mention that.
No, there is already Docker containers are available. How you will manage that containers? Stephen, if anyone, if you want, you can try.
yes. So, you can use orchestration tools like Kubernetes to
Yes,
manage multiple containers.
you are right. Thank you, Stephen. And the next question. So you have encountered a problem where a Docker container keeps crashing without any clear error message. How would you troubleshoot and diagnose this issue? Anyone? Satish?
We are uh, we are collecting that log files. We are checking that file, and regarding to that one, we need uh,
Okay, what is the command to check how you will troubleshoot? What are the steps you will follow?
a Docker container hyphen f hyphen f.
Um,
Stephen, you
you
can
can
try.
use, so if the Docker container keep crashing, so basically we can use Docker container logs to check what's going on, or
Yes.
if we not yeah, if we do not do that, if we use orchestration to like Kubernetes, we can keep doing the health check.
Yeah, you are right. And the scenario four, right? Your teams need to share data between multiple Docker containers. How would you accomplish this while maintaining isolation between the containers? Right, I have a 10 containers.
Yes,
Inside that containers, I need to share a data. How you will
with
troubleshoot this? How you will resolve this problem?
with the help of Kubernetes namespace.
I'm talking about Docker containers.
We can always use okay, create an environment variable, or we use config map, or we use Docker volume.
Super, you are right. We can use Docker volumes to share any data between multiple containers. So this is the last question in Docker. Okay, you need to ensure that your Docker containers are secure, right? And it should follow the company's policies. So what security best practices would you implement?
We can implement like a distro-less container. It is a lightweight, and we have a lot of security in that distro-less container.
Okay, Stephen.
Yes, so to make sure that the container is always secure, we can always create like we can create a namespace for them to make sure that the container is secure. And secondly, we can always use 3V in scanning the Docker image to make sure that it's free from any vulnerability.
Okay, so let's move to the Kubernetes. Okay, Kubernetes scenario based interview question. So your company is migrating its monolithic application to a microservice architecture, that too on Kubernetes. Like how would you plan and execute this migration?
We can migrate into that. We can write a in a code into the pod. I mean, in a pods, and we can deploy that using the deployment. It has tools like auto healing and auto scaling. If one server is down, automatically it will create and it will update that to our servers.
Okay, Stephen or Harish, anyone, you can add
Okay,
your points as well.
so if they're migrating to monolithic architecture, so basically they have to adopt Kubernetes for sure. So firstly, what they want to do is they want to create multiple namespace for this application, and they are creating a network. I mean, they can write a YAML file for them, and they can create a service as well. So yeah, I mean, basically that's what they should do.
Okay, now let's move to second scenario. Right, you have a stateful application that requires persistent storage in Kubernetes. How would you configure this persistent storage for this application?
Um,
I'm not asking direct questions. I'm asking you indirectly, and it is
Okay.
very
Are you
important.
are you on your Atish first?
Sorry.
So are you referring to everybody or Atish, or can I try?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Satish.
Sorry, I have no idea.
Sorry.
So basically you can create a persistent volume for that. Then you use the persistent volume claim. So basically basically it's just going with the volume concept. So we are using persistent volume.
We can use stateful set, right, for stateful application. Okay, let's move to scenario 3. You are experiencing performance issue with your Kubernetes cluster. How would you diagnose and resolve these issues?
Uh,
This is a damn sure question in every interview, and it's very important.
by using the kubectl, I mean,
Stephen, your cluster was not responding. There is some performance issue. Like how would you diagnose and resolve these issues?
So there are different things you can use. You can use basically kubectl or get pod to see what's going on. Or basically what you want to do is
No, not
you can
pod. Cluster
okay.
is facing the issue. If
Oh,
it
okay,
is
you so
pod, yeah, I
basically
can troubleshoot.
So you can use your AWK command basically to cd into your cluster to see what is going on. You might want to use systemctl, maybe like enable it. Probably something is going on.
Okay. Harish?
If we use kubectl describe, so this will describe the cluster information, what happens,
Okay.
and if it's excited, I think we need to uh, re up the Docker image or Docker container for the cluster.
You might, or maybe some things or something.
Okay. So you need to deploy a Kubernetes application across multiple environments that may be development, testing, staging, production, and with different configurations for every environment with different configurations. Right? How would you manage environment specific configuration in Kubernetes?
We can write a YAML file for that. For that, in that we can declare stages like
I'm I'm talking about configurations.
Are you using maybe config map or
Yes. So in the question itself, you are getting the answer. You need to observe the question. Stephen, you are right. You can use config maps. Right? Your team wants to implement rolling update for a Kubernetes deployment to minimize downtime during application upgrades. How would you achieve this? This is the last and final question for today.
you can adopt deployment strategy like rolling updates for it, or you use the blue green deployment for that.
Okay. Now I've already written the answers as well. Let's discuss one by one. Okay. So first one, what I have asked, you have a Docker container running a web server, but you need to update the application code inside it. How would you approach this task? So first you need to stop the container using Docker stop. Right? You need to pull the latest version of Docker image with your updated code using Docker pull. So whatever Satish said, it's absolutely correct. So run a new container with the updated image, ensuring to map volumes and ports using Docker run. Verify the new container is running correctly. So this is Satish was 100% correct. Super. And the scenario 2, your team is deploying a microservice architecture using Docker containers. How would you orchestrate and manage these containers effectively? So Stephen, you are right, we can use Kubernetes. So I would use Docker Swarm or Kubernetes for container orchestration. Both tools facilitate management and scaling across multiple hosts. For Docker Swarm, I would use command like Docker service create for deployments and updates. For in Kubernetes, I will define deployment configurations via YAML files and use kubectl for management. Another scenario, right? You have encoded a problem where a Docker container keeps crashing without any clear error message. How would you troubleshoot and diagnose this issue? For that answer, check container logs. Stephen, you are right. Docker logs and the container name, right? And Satish, you are also right. Inspect resource usage and runtime stats using Docker stats and the container name. And you can review the host system logs and metrics, or if needed, you can SSH into that container using Docker exec fnat container name for the direct troubleshooting. And you need to review your Docker file and configuration for misconfigurations. Okay, that is the answer. Your team needs to share data, so I would use Docker volumes or networks. Stephen, you are right. Volumes offer persistent storage shared among containers. So while network enables secure communications, so this setup allows containers to access shared data or communicate without impacting each other. So scenario 5, which I have asked in the Docker, final question, you need to ensure that Docker containers are secure and compliant with company policies. What is the steps you need to follow? Best practices: regularly update your Docker images and containers, right? Use Docker security features, namespaces, whatever Stephen said, you are right. Enjoy least privilege principles for container permissions. Use Docker content trust for image integrity. Nothing but you need to choose the image which is trusted and verified. You need to scan images, as Stephen said, you are right, Docker images for vulnerabilities. So monitor container activity for security incidents. So these are the scenarios you need to follow for this. Okay, this is the five very important questions in every interview. Mostly in every interviews it will be repeated, and I have attended multiple interviews in Wipro, right, for the client rounds. So they have asked me this. These are the damn sure questions. Wherever you go, they will definitely ask you. So security best practices, everyone will ask. Second, next one will be Kubernetes. So your company is migrating monolithic application to microservice architecture. How would you plan and execute this migration? Okay. So whatever Satish said, you almost right. We need to write the deployment configurations. So set up the Kubernetes cluster on premises using a cloud provider. Nothing but AWS, EKS, or whatever it might be, GKE, AKS. So deploy microservices to the cluster with proper networking. Implement monitoring and logging solutions. So we can use Prometheus and Grafana. Right, decompose the monolithic app into microservices gradually. Right, you have a stateful applications that requires persistent. Then yeah, like Stephen, whatever you said, you can use persistent volume and persistent volume claim. Right, and you need to create a storage class, appropriate storage class, and specify the access mode, right, capacity and other parameters in PVC. So if you know persistent volume claim, in that we have provided the access modes and all, right. If you know Kubernetes, you will know all these things. You need to attach this PVC to the pods in the YAML manifest. So deploy pods to Kubernetes cluster. Okay, and the scenario 3 will be what I asked. You are experiencing performance issues in your Kubernetes cluster. So you need to monitor resources like CPU, memory and disk. Use Kubernetes dashboard for monitoring tools. Check logs of individual pod for errors. Scale up cluster by adding more worker nodes if needed. Right, if the cluster was not working, you need to scale your nodes. I am just expected this answer from you. If you add one more node, right, automatically that performance might increase. You need to optimize the resource limits and request for your pods, and you need to implement this auto scaling, horizontal pod auto scaling.
How about if they use like daemon set? Is that going to solve the problem as well?
Yeah, daemon set, yes, monitoring tools. Using daemon set, you can use monitoring tools where you can run that monitoring tools as a daemon set. Okay, this is what the like this question was answered by Stephen. So we can use config map. So you need to deploy a Kubernetes application across multiple environments, which is development, staging and production, with different configurations. How would you manage environment specific configurations in Kubernetes? So use config map to store environment specific config data. Use separate config map for each environment. Right, reference config maps in pod deployment configs using env environmental variable or volume modes. Right, use Kubernetes namespaces to isolate resources. Utilize tools like Helm for templating and managing manifest. So scenario 5, your team wants to implement rolling update for a Kubernetes deployment to minimize downtime during application upgrades. How would you achieve this? Okay, define a new version of the container image. Okay, update the deployment configuration to use the new image. Set deployment strategy to rolling update. Specify maximum surge and maximum unavailable parameters. Right, which whenever you write the deployment file, there we have given, right, max surge, max unavailable during Kubernetes. If you enter the Kubernetes classes, this one which we already discussed, this is not a new. Right, update and deployment config to the cluster. Monitor rollout progress and rollback if needed. So whatever I've asked, everything was covered in the Docker and Kubernetes. Am I right, Satish? If I miss anything, just let me know.
No, you covered almost.
Okay, so this is what this. Okay, this is the mock day 4. I will update this in the GitHub. where you can find it. github.com/DevOps repositories DevOps mock interview. Okay, create new file. DevOps mock day4.mt. Okay, you can check it out and prepare while attending the interviews.
So did this interview prep for today? Did it cover the JD I sent last time, right? A little bit.
Yes, yes, whatever the JD you have provided, out of that most commonly they are like focusing on this
Okay.
orchestration like Kubernetes, Docker and Kubernetes.
Okay. No problem. Thanks.
So yeah, if you know this, you will crack that. But yeah, they are preferring DevSecOps. There we will discuss about the project, which we already discussed about the project. So there you need to explain about the DevSecOps project which we have done. We have deployed the Node.js using security checks, right? So in this also I've covered the what is the security best practices you will follow. So security part also I've asked in this question, like included here because it's a DevSecOps. Security plays a
Okay.
key role. So how you will secure, how you will maintain your Kubernetes cluster, what are the best practices you will follow. Though this is comes under security itself.
Okay. So you said in the Node.js project, we covered some security, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go check it out. The
Yeah, Trivi. We have
Node.js.
used a tool called as Trivi. There it
Uh,
is used to check this Docker image vulnerabilities and all. It is scanning this Docker image.
mhm.
Yeah. If possible, try to join tomorrow at 8 a.m. There also I will showing this same project Node.js we are deploying again. So whatever I've teached you, right, same thing. uh, you will be having a revision.
Okay. So what time? 8 o'clock.
Yes,
8
8
o'clock.
a.m. IST.
Okay, 8 a.m. IST. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check. I'll
So I
join.
will stop the recording.